Hello, it's Chip McGee. I'm your Superintendent of Schools, and this is Pelham School District Today, our next edition, and I'm very pleased to have our Director of Student Services, Brendan Hoffman. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And it's one of the programs that if you're involved in the schools, you would know a lot about. If you're not involved in the schools, you may not know much about it at all. It's something I'm very proud of here in Pelham, the work that we do for all students, including those with different types of educational disabilities that need specialized services. Brendan here is going to talk to us a little bit about what that is, try and help parents out to understand what the process might look like, I'm excited to kind of show off some of the great things that we do. So Brendan, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. Could you just kind of introduce yourself
Sure.
and tell me? I know you, but just introduce yourself to
Sure.
me. Yep.
So my name is Brendan Hoffman, and I'm the Director of Student Services for the district. I have been fortunate enough to work here in Pelham for the past 9 years. I have had the opportunity to work at different levels in the district, and I'm very proud and very grateful for the opportunity to be the Director of Student Services.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think that we are just past your 1 year anniversary.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so one of the rules there is that you don't get to say I'm new anymore. I don't know if I've told you that before.
So I still want to reserve the right to say that I'm new because last year I was the interim director.
That's right.
I had the opportunity to be the interim, and so this is my first year as the director.
All right,
so,
fair point.
So
fair point. You get the rest of the year.
I'm going to try to leverage the rest of the year for that.
That's good. That's good. So I think that for families listening that may or may not be involved in special education or any of our student services, the question is, how do you know whether you even need this? So let's say there's a parent out there thinking, I'm worried, my kid is struggling in this area. Maybe it's always hard for a parent, as a parent myself, it's
Yes.
so hard, worrying if there's something going on with your child. What should that parent do?
So thank you for sharing the emotions associated with your child having a hard time or showing some difficulties within school. So my first advice, as also a parent who sat on numerous sides of the table within the process, is to just sort of gather yourself and to really understand that all children go through ups and downs and have some strengths and weaknesses. And if you suspect that your child's having a harder time than maybe your other children or even folks who are of the same age, the important piece here is to just gather yourself and understand that you're their number one advocate. What I would encourage a family to do is to then reach out to the school. We have many opportunities for families to connect with the school, but if you suspect that your child has a disability, my first recommendation would be to reach directly out to your child's classroom teacher.
Oh, okay.
That's a great start.
That's always my first recommendation.
It is. And even before that recommendation is that to continue to have that conversation with your child. Your child's voice in understanding exactly where they are struggling within their schooling is incredibly important within the process to determine whether your child does or does not have an educational disability.
Actually, I'm going to interject there because I think it's really important, and I know we're on the same page on this. You said if your child is struggling, and in fact, school is about struggling over new content. And so at some point, every single child we expect there to be some struggle because they're going from being non-readers to readers. That's a huge step. They're struggling through algebra for the first time. Of course there's struggle. And so differentiating between struggle and a disability, that's really hard.
it is very hard.
Yeah.
And going back to the emotions
Mm-hmm.
as a parent associated with that struggle is tremendously important.
Yeah.
What I'd like to comment on about that struggle is determining whether that struggle is a struggle, which
Mm-hmm.
is a great opportunity for learning, because the struggling is learning, because that exists for all of us.
Right.
Understanding whether that raises to a disability is through a very defined process, that my role in the district is to help teams and families understand at a deeper level. As the student service director, students who are identified with disabilities, once identified through a very, very cohesive, comprehensive process, then have opportunities to get some additional support related to that disability that is determined through a very defined process.
Okay. And so I know the process kind of.
Sure.
It's my job to oversee it, but you know it like the back of your hand.
Yes.
And a parent will not really quite understand it yet. And so do you have any like examples of places where a student, it could be confusing
Yes.
to know, like, is this a disability, or is this just normal struggle, or is it something else? And I'm just going to use a quick for instance.
Sure.
So when my little girl,
Yeah.
who's not so little anymore, but when she was I think 3, she needed glasses.
Yes.
But it took us a while to figure out what was going on, and she just couldn't see things as well as she needed to, and it took a while and was very anxiety producing, because we didn't know.
Right.
Now in hindsight, I was like, oh, it was glasses, but beforehand I didn't know.
Right.
So are there things like that, or do you have any advice for parents dealing with that?
So I do. So that using that illustration, I would encourage parents to obviously talking to their child and understanding how they're viewing their learning experience is number one, so that capturing that voice. As I said earlier, touching base with the classroom teacher, but I would also collect information. In that process, to understand whether your child needed glasses, you gathered information to say, this is what is the outcome that we need to come to, and it was glasses. So for a schooling standpoint, it would be when you're paying attention to those report cards. Talking to your teacher at the progress report meetings. It's that information that helps the team process and really helps you as a parent frame your child's experience for the professionals that your child's working with. And it's gathering that information to substantiate your concern of if you have that concern of a suspected disability, to be brought forth through the team process. We use the term the team process. It's part of our special education process. That team process then uses that information to determine whether the child needs glasses, but needs educational supports within the school system.
Okay.
But using your analogy, that's what a parent would do. And it's really reaching out to the school and sharing very candidly, often through an email works, that you suspect your child has a disability and that you'd like the team to consider this as a referral, making a referral.
Those are the key words.
A referral would be the key word to indicate to the school district that you suspect an educational disability and you feel like you'd like to have a conversation for the team to discuss it.
Okay. And so generally,
Sure.
who's on this team?
That's a very good question.
Well, thank you.
It is because it does vary.
Yeah.
So I can't give you a straight answer in
Right.
regards to who's on the team, but the team generally consists of what we call the LEA representative, who is somebody who sits at the table.
LEA?
Yes, so that's the local educational agency. It's the school district, and we have a representative that sits on that team to help organize the conversation, to make sure that the district and the team process is operating with fidelity. Because we want to make sure that we protect the rights of the child. You would have your classroom teacher,
The teachers
Yep,
there, okay.
the general education teacher would
And I
be a
could
part
think
of
of
that.
the LEA as an administrator.
It's an
usually.
administrator.
Yeah.
Excuse me if I I'm very thankful that the district has, maybe I make a plug here.
Plug away.
The district recently incorporated what we call building-based coordinators in the district as an additional resource to the buildings to support the student service process. This is our second year having coordinators at every building,
Yeah.
and we are very fortunate to have those folks there. That team,
And that's typically who's going to be the LEA.
they would be, in this case, the LEA representative. And that team gathers. And
Wait,
then,
so it's the teacher and the LEA, which will be the special education coordinator, and that's it?
and then the special education teacher
Special education
would be
teacher.
there. And if there are any other additional concerns, for example, if your child has concerns with speech, articulation, the related service provider
Okay,
would likely. So it's going back to the conversation with your child and gathering that information about what you're concerned about and expressing that to the team
Yeah.
helps us know who would be best suited to be at the table to hear your concerns as a parent.
And so I know the answer to this, and you know the answer to this, so I'm going to ask it to make it clear.
Sure.
Is the parent part of the team?
The parent is an incredibly important member of that team. In fact, the team process is founded on parent voice.
Yeah.
And we want to ensure that your voice is there's a forum for your voice to be heard.
Okay.
But it remains a team process.
Right. Got it.
so-
So I'm going to shift a little bit.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of jargon
Yep.
in your field because it's really comes out of federal law.
Yes, it does.
A law, by the way, that I think is noble and makes me proud of the federal government. So I'm going to use a term about something that's related and also falls under you. Section 504.
Sure.
So we throw it around like everyone should know what Section 504 means. Could you just kind of explain what is Section 504? If a parent hears it, what's going on there?
Sure. So Section 504 is it came to be in the 70s with the civil rights movement, and that was under the it's covered by the U.S. Department of Education. So it's a federal, and it's designed under Section 504 to make sure that folks with disabilities beyond educational institutions like school systems put in appropriate protections to ensure that that individual with a disability has equal access.
So I always picture, as one example, ramps for someone who's in a wheelchair and curb cuts.
Yep.
Is that Section 504 stuff?
Yes, so that would be considered what we call accommodations.
Okay.
So Section 504 provides those accommodations to allow an individual with a disability to, in the case of a ramp, access the entry of the building or the establishment.
So if I use that as kind of a metaphor, what are some other types of accommodations that Section 504 might help a student out with?
Sure. So Section 504, in regards to accommodation, Section 504 as a process also has a team process. So
there's Section 504?
yes,
And there's
IDEA.
IEP, IDEA.
Yes.
All right.
So Section 504 still affords the due process related to determining what accommodations for your child, if your child was determined with a disability and required Section 504 accommodations to be applied. So, and a good example would be, sometimes we need a student who requires a sound field or some additional speakers within a classroom to allow a child who
with
has hearing loss to access the instruction. There's no special instruction. It's simply a sound field to amplify the teacher teaching to allow your child to hear.
All right, so I'm a poor parent. I don't know which of those buckets I fall in, or if I even fall into either of those.
Sure.
What do I do?
So that it's once again going back to what I shared earlier about you suspect a disability. It's very important that you gather yourself, get some information regarding why you're concerned about your child, and reach out to your general education teacher.
And I think that's, I'm just going to reiterate it because, we hire really well here, and so our classroom teachers know this law, we know what resources we have, and a lot of these things we provide excellent instruction and very accessible classrooms to begin with.
Absolutely.
And they also know how to help a parent begin to navigate, set down the right path.
Yeah.
That's really helpful. And so I'm going to go one other place.
Okay.
So I'm really proud of our special education programming here. While it's never perfect, it's always a struggle, we can always do better. There's some things I'm really proud of. And I know you're really proud of it, that you've been a part of it in several different ways. So brag for a minute. What are some things
Sure.
that you can't list everybody, even though I know you like to mention every single person, but what are some things that you might brag about?
So I started when we became our very own SAU in 2013. Back when we split from the Wyndham Pelham, and when I came to Pelham, I was proud to be a part of it because we were a brand new district. And with all brand new districts, you have your growing pains and you have pieces that you're trying to build upon. So one of the areas that I'm incredibly proud of, and this has been work over time with my predecessors as well, is that the community has invested deeply into offering quality self-contained programming across the district. And what that means, what that means is the district is obligated under the federal rules to make sure that we have a place for all children to learn. And if we don't have a place for them to learn, we're still obligated to provide them what we call a free and appropriate public education. And the district, over my time here, has increased its commitment to adding a placement for students who are significantly disabled, for students who have difficulties with communicating and nonverbal, students who may have an educational disability of autism and require some very specialized instruction in a classroom that is focused on their unique learning needs.
As a career general educator, I have not ever been a certified or practicing special educator.
Yes.
It was one of the inspiring points for me to want to be here, that students with high needs, if we can, we keep them here, and they get to be part of the school, and that's true at all three levels. And
I'm very proud of that.
in fact, I'll brag a little bit further, which is I think in the last year you've made sure that that's comprehensive through all grades.
Yes, we have.
We worked hard this year for that.
We did, and for me, as a value system and as something that I hold dear, I want to encourage this district, and I'm proud of this district offering students the opportunity to be educated despite their unique challenges with their neighborhood peers in the community that they live. It's important for us to know that sometimes we need to make decisions to offer students an opportunity to get an education in other locations, because we can't meet the need of every student. But I have a goal to do my best to try to create as many opportunities for our students to remain in their neighborhood schools to get the education that they deserve. So I'm proud of the work that's been done to address that. I'm also incredibly proud of the working relationships that we have made with other community members. Pelham is, we're very well respected because we put students first while maintaining our fiduciary responsibility to the team process. And I'm very proud of that work.
So there's one other thing that I've been proud of, and obviously we're never going to talk about it, individual students, but on occasion, actually fairly frequently, there are kids who are discharged from special education, and I think of it as a mini graduation.
Yeah.
That they've been able to put in place their own tools and their own capacity to self-advocate if they need support, into such a way that they can access a free and appropriate public education and get the full education, and have the tools to overcome that disability. And it's always a ton of work that went into it, and amazing when it happens, and it does.
May I comment?
Yes.
It can be scary for a family.
Yes.
So
I appreciate that
it
comment.
is important to just point that out, and I appreciate you bringing it up, because when we've done our job and that child's done their job and the families have done their job, the end goal is to have that child be an independent individual.
That's right.
Who can engage in a community that needs a lot of workers. We need those folks to be ready to be employed. And when we can do that work as a team, and we can bring that individual to a place where they no longer need those specially designed instruction, or even the accommodations associated with that, we've done our job.
That's right.
And it can be scary, but it's a point where we should really celebrate and be proud of.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here.
It's been my pleasure.
I really appreciate it. And that concludes this latest edition of Pelham School District Today. Thank you, Brendan Hoffman, for being here, and thanks for listening.